"You know, son, there's a sound I'll never forget in my life. That cold bang of the judge's gavel echoing in the empty courtroom. It sounded like the door of my life shutting for good. I was sitting there, hands trembling on that polished wooden table, my old wedding ring glinting under the courtroom lights. I remember thinking, how did it come to this? I once owned a small furniture shop in Ohio, built every chair with my own 2 hands. My wife, Margaret, used to bring me sandwiches at lunchtime, ham and cheese with too much mustard, just the way I liked it. But now she was gone. And so was the shop. The banks took it. The debts swallowed everything. And I was left staring at the judge, waiting for him to end the last piece of dignity I had left. He looked at me for a long time, his face kind, but heavy with something I couldn't read. Then his voice came soft but final. "Mr. Walker, you are hereby declared bankrupt." My heart didn't break all at once. It cracked quietly, like an old wooden floor beneath too much weight. I nodded, unable to speak. The courtroom was so still, I could hear the clock ticking behind me. Everyone started leaving, the lawyers, the clerk, even the security guard. I just sat there, staring at that old table, thinking about Margaret, about how proud she used to be of me. Then it happened. The judge stood up to leave but stopped midway. He turned back, looked around to make sure no one was watching, and walked slowly toward me. He leaned down, slipped a folded piece of paper across the table, and whispered, "Read this when you're alone, and for God's sake, don't tell anyone." And just like that, he walked away. I stared at that note for minutes. My hands shook as I picked it up. I didn't even open it, not yet. I didn't trust myself. Instead, I stuffed it in my coat pocket and walked out into the cold December air. Outside, the world looked different. People were rushing, laughing, carrying coffees and briefcases, and I was just an old man whose life had been erased with a sentence. Snow began to fall, tiny flakes melting on my coat. I thought about walking back to the little motel where I'd been staying, but something inside me told me to sit down first. So, I went to the bench across from the courthouse, the same one where Margaret and I used to eat ice cream on summer days. I sat there, opened my shaking hands, and unfolded the note. It said, "Your bankruptcy case isn't what it seems. There's money, yours, hidden under another name. Go to the old Harper building on 5th Street. Basement. Locker 17. Don't trust anyone." My heart stopped. What money? Hidden under my name? Who would hide money for me, and why? I looked back at the courthouse, but the judge was gone. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope mixed with fear. If you were in my place, sitting on that cold bench with nothing left to lose, and a note like that burning in your hand, would you follow it? Or would you walk away, afraid of what truth you might find? Tell me what your heart says, because mine, it said go. I tucked the note inside my shirt, pulled my collar up, and started walking toward 5th Street. The wind bit at my cheeks, but I didn't care. My mind was racing with questions. The Harper building, that was an old abandoned office complex. I hadn't been there in decades. It used to be a bank once, maybe even the same one that repossessed my shop. When I got there, the front doors were chained shut. But on the side alley, there was a broken window, just big enough for an old man to squeeze through. I hesitated. I wasn't the kind to break into places. Not me, not Samuel Walker, a man who always paid his taxes and swept his shop every night before closing. But that note made me do something I never thought I would. I climbed in. The building was dark, smelled of dust and rainwater. My shoes echoed across the marble floor as I made my way to the basement. The stairs creaked under my weight, and every sound made my heart jump. I reached the bottom and saw rows of old metal lockers, their paint peeling off, numbers barely visible. And there it was, locker 17. I knelt down, brushed the dust off, and saw a small lock still hanging on it. But the strangest thing? The key was already inside. I turned it slowly. The lock clicked open. Inside was an old, rusted briefcase. I lifted it out. It was heavier than it looked. My hands trembled as I unclasped it, and when I opened it, I swear, I forgot how to breathe. Bundles of cash. Stacks and stacks of it. old bills wrapped in faded paper bands. And on top of it all, a photograph. A young man shaking hands with me in front of my old furniture shop. Only, I didn't recognize him. But written on the back were 4 words that made my stomach drop. He owes you everything. That's when I heard it, footsteps. Someone was coming down the stairs. I froze. That sound, those footsteps echoing down the old concrete stairs, sent a chill through my bones deeper than the winter cold ever could. I shut the briefcase quickly and stepped back into the shadows. My heart thudded in my chest so loud I was sure whoever it was could hear it. The footsteps stopped just a few steps away. Then a flashlight beam cut through the darkness. "Who's there?" a voice barked. It wasn't the police. No, it was younger, rougher, like someone who didn't ask questions twice. I didn't answer. I pressed myself against the damp wall, clutching the briefcase tight to my chest. The beam swept across the lockers, closer and closer, until it landed right on me. "There you are," the voice said. "Mr. Walker, I presume?" I squinted into the light, but when he stepped closer, I saw his face. Mid-30s, clean-shaven, wearing a black coat too nice for a man creeping around abandoned buildings. He smiled like he already knew everything about me. "I've been expecting you," he said calmly. "Expecting me?" I stammered. "Who are you?" "Someone who's been keeping an eye on what's rightfully yours," he replied. His tone was polite, but his eyes, they were sharp, like someone trained to notice every move. "Did the judge send you?" I asked. At that, his smile faltered. "The judge did what he could. Now it's up to you." He stepped closer, holding out his hand. "Please, Mr. Walker, come with me. That case doesn't belong here anymore." I gripped it tighter. "You tell me what's going on first. Why was this money hidden? Who's that man in the photo?" "The man side? I can't answer that. Not here. There are people watching. If they know you found it, you'll be in danger." He looked toward the stairs. "We have to move now." Something inside me told me to trust him, but another voice, Margaret's voice, whispered caution. I was tired, confused, and scared, but I'd lost too much already to turn back. "All right," I muttered, "but I'm not letting go of this case." He nodded. "Fair enough." We made our way out through the same broken window. The night was colder now. The snow had turned to sleet, tapping softly against the pavement. The man led me to a black car parked in the alley, engine running but lights off. He opened the back door. "Get in." As soon as I sat down, I realized we weren't alone. A woman was sitting in the front passenger seat, glancing back at me. She looked about 40, with sharp brown eyes and a small scar on her cheek. "This is him?" she asked. The man nodded. "Yes, Samuel Walker." She turned fully toward me. "Then let's not waste time. Do you know who your partner was, Mr. Walker?" "My partner?" I frowned. "I never had one." She exchanged a glance with the man. "You did. You just didn't know it. The money in that case, it was part of your business years ago. Someone hid it under false records when your company went under." I shook my head. No, I built that shop myself. Every dollar I earned was clean." "That's what you believed," she said softly. "But someone used your business to move illegal funds, millions of dollars, decades ago. They chose your name because you were honest, trustworthy, invisible." I stared at her. "Are you saying I was framed?" "Used," she corrected, "and then erased." I looked down at the briefcase on my lap. Suddenly, the weight of it felt different. Not hope anymore, but danger. "Why now?" I asked. "Why is the judge involved?" "Because the case you lost in court wasn't real bankruptcy," the man said. "It was a cover-up. Someone high up needed you silenced before you started asking questions about where your money went." The woman leaned closer. "And the judge couldn't speak openly. That note was the only way to warn you." I sat there, staring out the window as the car rolled through the quiet city streets. My reflection looked back at me. An old man with nothing left but questions and a storm behind his eyes. For the first time in years I felt alive. Scared, yes, but alive. They dropped me off at an old motel on the outskirts of town. Stay here tonight, the woman said. We'll contact you in the morning. Don't tell anyone you found the money. Not even the police. Why should I trust you? I asked. She hesitated, then handed me a worn photograph. It was of me, Margaret, and a young boy. My breath caught in my throat. Where did you get this? The boy, she said quietly, wasn't just anyone. Before I could ask what she meant, she got back in the car, and they drove off into the dark. I stood there under the flickering motel sign, holding that photo, the rain washing over my face. The young boy in the picture, I didn't recognize him, but he was holding my hand. If you were me, standing there in the rain, clutching a photo of a child you don't remember, a suitcase full of cash that could ruin you or save you, would you open the door to your past, or leave it buried forever? Because I didn't know then that the next morning, someone would try to kill me for what I'd found. I went inside the motel, locked the door, and sat on the edge of the bed. The briefcase sat in front of me like a bomb. I took out the photo again, running my fingers over Margaret's smile. She looked so happy, and that boy, why did he look so much like her? I must have fallen asleep with the picture in my hand, because the next thing I knew, there was a loud bang on the door. Not a knock. A kick. Mr. Walker, a voice shouted. Open up, police. But when I looked out the window, I didn't see police lights. Just a black car parked under the streetlight, the same one that brought me here. And this time I knew they weren't here to help me. You ever wake up and, for a few seconds, forget where you are? That was me that morning. I woke to the sound of rain tapping against the window, my body stiff from a night of restless sleep. For a brief moment, I thought I was back home, that Margaret was in the kitchen humming, that the smell of fresh coffee would drift in. But then I saw the briefcase sitting on the motel floor, and reality came crashing back. And then, the banging started again. Mr. Walker, open up. Only this time, there was no patience in their tone. It was cold, urgent. I looked through the peephole, 2 men in dark coats, no police badges. One of them had his hand tucked under his jacket like he was holding something. My stomach turned. I didn't think, I just acted. I grabbed the briefcase, shoved the photograph into my pocket, and looked for a way out. The motel room window was small and half-rusted shut, but when I heard the door frame crack, I forced it open. Cold wind and rain hit my face as I climbed out. My old legs ached, but fear made me faster than I'd been in years. I landed hard on the wet pavement and ran behind the building, heart hammering in my ears. I could hear them shouting inside the room, throwing things around. One of them yelled, "He's gone!" I didn't stop. I ran until my knees screamed, until I couldn't breathe, until the motel was just a blur behind me. There was an old bus stop at the edge of the highway. I collapsed onto the bench, gasping for air. My hands shook as I opened the briefcase again. The money was still there, untouched. But this time, I noticed something else. A small envelope taped beneath the lid. I peeled it off. Inside was a single key and a folded piece of paper. The note read, "The boy in the photo is alive. Find him before they do. MH." I didn't know what MH meant, but something about those initials made my skin crawl, because I'd seen them before. On a business card. From a man who once offered me a partnership long ago, when I was still building my furniture shop. Marcus Hale. I hadn't thought about that name in decades. A slick-talking investor who'd wanted to expand my business. I refused, because his money felt dirty. I'd heard rumors about him back then, about deals made in backrooms, money that disappeared into thin air. And now, his initials were staring back at me from this note. I looked up at the dark highway, the rain pouring harder now. I had one thought in my mind. Find the boy. But how? I didn't even know who he was. I reached into my coat for the photograph again, studying it under the dim light of the bus stop. That boy's eyes. They were familiar. Not in a way I could explain, but deep down I felt like I'd seen them before. Then it hit me. He looked like Margaret's brother, Daniel, the one who disappeared when we were young. The same blue eyes, the same dimple when he smiled. Could it be? I didn't have time to think further. A car pulled up slowly near the bus stop, headlights off. My heart nearly stopped. But when the window rolled down, I saw a familiar face, the woman from last night. "Get in," she said quickly. "You're not safe here." I hesitated. "You said you'd find me in the morning. Looks like you already knew where I'd be." "I told you we've been watching. Now move before they find us." Against every instinct I had, I got in the car. She sped off, tires splashing through puddles. The city lights faded behind us. "Who are those men?" I asked. "People who work for Marcus Hale," she said quietly. "He's not dead, like everyone thinks. He's been hiding offshore, using fake identities to keep control of the money he laundered through your company." "And the boy?" I asked. "You said he's alive." She looked at me with something almost like pity. "He's not a boy anymore, Mr. Walker. He's 35 now. And he's been trying to find you." My breath caught. "Find me? Why?" "Because you're his father." The world around me went silent. The hum of the tires, the rain, everything vanished into a ringing emptiness. I stared at her. "That's not possible. My wife and we couldn't have children." "I know," she said softly. "That's what you believed. But Margaret kept a secret from you. Years ago, before you met her, she had a son. She gave him up to protect him from Marcus Hale." I couldn't speak. My hands trembled. My throat burned with disbelief. Why would she keep that from me?" The woman sighed. "Because Hale wasn't just your business partner, Samuel. He was her first husband." I felt like my heart had been ripped in half. Margaret, the woman I loved, the woman I buried with my own hands, had been married to him? The man who ruined my life? I wanted to scream, to cry, to hit something. But I just sat there, staring at the rain running down the window, whispering, "She never told me." The woman slowed the car. "There's more. The man in the photo, the boy, you need to find him before Hale does. He's the only one who knows where the rest of the money is hidden." I turned to her. "Where do I find him?" She looked at me and said, "Chicago. If you were me, and in one night, you discovered your wife's past, your lost son, and a fortune tied to your enemy, would you run toward the truth, or turn away before it destroyed what little piece you had left?" Because me, I decided to face it, no matter what it cost. We drove through the night. My eyes stayed fixed on the photograph. Margaret's smile, my hand holding the boy's, and suddenly, I noticed something I hadn't before. In the corner of the photo, faint and blurred, was a sign. Harper Orphanage, 1989. The same name as the building where I found the briefcase. It wasn't just a coincidence. It was a map. And for the first time in a long time, I knew exactly where I needed to go. You ever driven through the night when the world's asleep, and the only sound is your thoughts? That was me on that long road to Chicago. The highway stretched out like a ribbon of ghosts. Every mile I drove felt like I was chasing pieces of a past I never knew existed. The woman, her name was Claire, sat quietly beside me, her eyes fixed on the road. Neither of us spoke much. The air was heavy, filled with questions neither of us knew how to ask. Somewhere near dawn, the skyline of Chicago appeared through the fog. The city looked alive even in the gray light. Tall buildings glowing faintly, steam rising from manholes, early commuters rushing past like shadows. Claire pointed toward the west side. "The orphanage used to be there. It's closed now, condemned years ago after a fire." I parked the car near what looked like an abandoned church. Its walls were blackened by smoke, windows shattered, ivy creeping over the stone. The sign was still there, half-burned but readable. Harper Orphanage. Seeing that name again sent chills through me. I stepped inside, my shoes crunching over broken glass. The air smelled of damp wood and ashes. But beneath it all, something faintly familiar, like old varnish. The same scent I used in my furniture shop. "Someone's been here," Claire whispered. She pointed to a set of footprints in the dust leading deeper inside. We followed them down a narrow corridor until we reached a door half hanging off its hinges. Inside was what looked like an old records room. Filing cabinets, scattered papers, and in the center, a metal table with one single envelope lying on top. It had my name on it. I stared at it for a long moment before picking it up. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a photo, newer this time. A man in his 30s, standing beside a workbench that looked strangely like my old shop. And under it, a note written in neat handwriting. If you're reading this, it means you found the truth. I'm your son, Daniel. I've been looking for you. Please, don't trust anyone. Not even Claire. Meet me where it all began. I looked up at Claire slowly. Her eyes widened when she saw the note, and she stepped back. What does it say? I folded it quietly. Nothing you need to know. Her expression changed, that calm control she always had slipped for the first time. He's alive, isn't he? Why do you care? I asked. She hesitated, then said softly. Because Hale isn't after you anymore, Mr. Walker. He's after him. The boy. He wants the rest of the money your wife hid. What do you mean my wife hid it? She looked away. Margaret didn't just run from Hale. She took half his fortune, and she hid it in accounts tied to your name. That's why the judge had to protect you. If Hale finds your son first, he'll kill him to get it back. I took a deep breath, my chest tightening. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might give out right there. So all of this, I whispered, wasn't about me losing everything. It was about Margaret saving something she couldn't tell me. Claire nodded slowly. She was protecting you both. I turned toward the cracked window. Outside, snow had started to fall again. Thick, slow flakes drifting through the ruins like ghosts of the children who once lived here. And then I realized what where it all began meant. The Harper Building. The same place where I found the briefcase. That's where Daniel wanted to meet. I turned to Claire. I have to go back. She grabbed my arm. You can't. Hale's men will be waiting there. Then they'll have to wait, I said, pulling free. My boy needs me. If you were me, an old man who'd lost everything, and suddenly found a son he never knew existed, would you risk your life for one last chance to make things right? Because for me, there was no question. A father's heart never stops fighting, even if it's his last fight. I drove alone this time. The road back to the Harper Building felt endless. My reflection in the windshield looked older, harder. But there was fire in my chest again, a reason to keep breathing. When I reached the building, dawn was breaking, painting the sky with pale orange light. The streets were empty, the world still half asleep. I parked behind the building and stepped inside through the same broken window as before. The basement was just as I'd left it. Cold, dark, silent. But this time the locker room wasn't empty. A man stood near the far wall, half in shadow. He turned slowly as I entered, and I swear, my knees nearly gave out. He looked just like Margaret. The same eyes, the same quiet sadness in them. 30-something, tall, with rough hands and a tired face. Dad? He said softly. My throat closed up. Daniel. He walked closer, hesitant, like he was afraid I'd disappear. I didn't think you'd come. I almost didn't, I said, my voice trembling. I thought I was too late for everything. He smiled faintly, tears glistening in his eyes. You're just in time. I reached out and put my hand on his shoulder. Son, there's so much I don't know. And there's so much I need to tell you, he said. But we don't have much time. They're coming. And before I could ask who, we heard it. The creak of the front doors opening above us. The echo of footsteps. They'd found us. Daniel looked at me and whispered, Dad, whatever happens, don't let them take the briefcase. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest like it had a rhythm all its own. There I was, standing in the dim basement of the Harper Building, finally face to face with my son, Daniel. 35 years of life I never knew about, hidden in shadows, staring right back at me. And behind the faint glow of the single hanging bulb, I could sense danger creeping closer. Daniel's eyes were wide, filled with fear and something else, hope. I stepped closer, my hands trembling, and whispered, Son, I don't even know where to begin. He shook his head, tears glinting in his eyes. Dad, It's not too late, but we have to move quickly. They're after the briefcase, and if Hale's men get it, they won't hesitate to hurt us. I glanced around the basement. The briefcase, our ticket to answers, our key to the fortune Margaret hid decades ago, sat heavily on the floor. My palms itched to touch it, but I knew the danger was more real than the money itself. Tell me everything, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I need to know the truth about Margaret, about you, about this money. Daniel hesitated. Then, as though finally letting go of a lifetime of questions, he began. Mom, Margaret, she loved you more than anything. But Marcus Hale, he was dangerous. He wanted the money for himself. She gave up her son to protect him and to protect you. And all these years, she made sure it was kept safe under your name, knowing you'd one day find it. I closed my eyes and remembered Margaret's smile, her hands in mine, her soft voice telling me life would be okay. I had thought I lost her forever, but here she had been protecting me in ways I could never have imagined. Why the note? I asked, glancing at the crumpled paper in my pocket. Daniel looked at me with a knowing expression. The judge knew Hale's men were watching. He couldn't openly tell you. He had to give you the chance to follow the trail yourself, to find me, to protect us both. I felt tears welling in my eyes. The man who had judged me, who had seemingly destroyed my life, had actually saved it. The irony. It was almost cruel, almost beautiful. Before I could say anything, a loud crash echoed from the stairs. The footsteps we had feared all along. Hale's men had found us. Daniel grabbed my hand. Dad, stay close. We have to move. I nodded, gripping the briefcase tightly, and we ran through the shadows of the basement, hearts hammering with fear and adrenaline. Every corner seemed like it could hide a threat. Every creak in the floor echoed doom. But we didn't stop. Not for a second. Finally, we reached the old freight elevator. Daniel pressed the button, and it groaned to life. As the cage shuddered upward, I glanced back. The shadows of our pursuers fading below us, the danger close but slipping away. We emerged on the street, the dawn breaking over Chicago, casting golden light on wet asphalt. I held the briefcase, feeling its weight, but also feeling something heavier. The weight of lost time, of secrets revealed, of a family reunited. Daniel turned to me, his eyes shining. Dad, this is just the beginning. We can rebuild. We can make things right. And you finally know the truth about your life, about your family, and about Margaret's love. I swallowed hard, tears rolling down my cheeks. All these years, I thought I had nothing left. But I was wrong. I still have you. I still have hope. And I still have a reason to keep going. For the first time in decades, I felt whole. Not because of the money, never for the money, but because the people I loved, the truth, and the strength I didn't know I had were finally with me. As we walked away from the Harper building, side by side, I turned to the audience, as if I were sitting across from you, sharing my story, and whispered, life will break you. People will lie, cheat, and betray you. But if you hold on, follow your heart, and trust even in the darkest moments, one day, the truth will find you. And when it does, it will set you free. And with that, I knew my journey, my suffering, and my love had led me here, to this moment of peace, reunion, and hope. No more hiding, no more lies, no more fear, just the warm glow of truth, family, and the quiet courage that only years of hardship can give.